The quantum signatures appeared first, subtle distortions in the fabric of space-time that only the most sensitive instruments at CERN could detect. Dr. Elena Chen stared at the readings, her coffee growing cold beside her keyboard. After 15 years of searching for evidence of advanced civilizations, she learned to trust her instincts. These weren't natural phenomena. "Dr. Patel, are you seeing this?" She called across the control room. Her colleague wheeled his chair over, squinting at the cascade of data. "The temporal anomalies are increasing exponentially," he muttered. "But that's impossible. Nothing should be able to." The proximity alarms cut him off. Every screen in the facility lit up with warnings as something massive dropped out of hyperspace just beyond lunar orbit. The object's sudden appearance sent gravitational waves rippling through the solar system. Within hours, every major observatory on Earth had their instruments trained on the visitor. The vessel, if that's what it was, measured nearly 3 kilometers in length. Its hull seemed to shift and flow like liquid mercury, but with geometric patterns that defied Euclidean geometry. More disturbing were the tears in its surface that revealed glimpses of what appeared to be other dimensions bleeding through. Elena found herself quickly pulled into the hastily assembled First Contact Committee. As the leading expert on quantum mechanics and temporal physics, her insights would be crucial. The committee gathered in a secured bunker beneath Geneva, faces grave as they reviewed the preliminary data. "The vessel is broadcasting on multiple frequencies," announced General Sarah Hayes of the United Nations Space Command. "Our computers are still working on decryption, but the message pattern suggests distress signals." "What kind of distress?" asked Chinese Ambassador Liu. "And more importantly, do we risk responding?" Elena studied the waveform patterns. "These aren't just normal transmissions," she said. "The signals themselves are quantum entangled. Whoever they are, their technology is far beyond ours." "But," she paused, frowning at her tablet, "there's something wrong with their temporal signature. It's like they're stuck." "Stuck?" General Hayes raised an eyebrow. "In time," Elena explained. "Their ship exists in multiple temporal states simultaneously. If I'm reading this correctly, they're experiencing some kind of temporal loop degradation. They're literally being torn apart across different time streams." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Here was humanity's first contact with an advanced civilization, and they had arrived literally falling apart at the seams of reality itself. The decision to respond came from the UN Security Council within the hour. Elena found herself part of the team crafting the reply. A simple mathematical sequence transmitted on the same quantum frequencies the visitors used. The response was immediate. The alien vessel shifted, its impossible geometry reorganizing as it moved into a closer orbit. New signals arrived, and with them came images that made Elena's blood run cold. They showed vast swarms of crystalline entities moving through space like schools of predatory fish. Entire solar systems reduced to cosmic dust in their wake. And behind them, something darker still, shapes that hurt the mind to look upon directly. "They're running from something," Elena whispered. "Something that hunts civilizations that achieve certain technological breakthroughs." She turned to the general. "They didn't come here by chance. They came here for help." The images continued, showing the aliens' desperate flight across the galaxy. Their civilization had discovered the key to manipulating time itself, but that discovery had drawn the attention of entities they called the Void Hunters, ancient beings that fed on advanced civilizations like cosmic parasites. "Why Earth?" Ambassador Liu demanded. "Why risk bringing these hunters to our doorstep?" Elena's hands trembled as she decoded the next sequence of data. "Because we're different," she said. "Our universe has a quantum quirk, a stability in our region of space-time that their sensors detected. They believe we might be able to help them break free of the temporal trap they're caught in. And in return." "In return what?" General Hayes pressed. "In return, they'll help us prepare. Because now that we've made contact, the Void Hunters will come regardless. We've just inherited their war." The committee erupted in argument, but Alina barely heard them. Her mind was already racing ahead, seeing possibilities in the quantum equations the aliens had shared. Earth had been thrust onto the galactic stage in the worst possible way, but perhaps that's exactly what humanity needed. She looked up at the view screen showing the alien vessel. Beneath its shifting surface, she could see the crew dying, their very existence being pulled apart by temporal forces she was only beginning to understand. Time was running out, in more ways than one. "We helped them," she announced, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Not just because it's the right thing to do, but because we'll need what they know to survive what's coming." Besides, she allowed herself a grim smile. Humanity has a pretty good track record of doing the impossible when our backs are against the wall. General Hayes studied her for a long moment before nodding. "Dr. Chen, you have full authority to establish direct communication. Ambassador Liu, we'll need international cooperation on a scale we've never seen before." She turned to address the whole room. "Ladies and gentlemen, as of this moment, we are at war. Not just for our own survival, but for the very nature of time itself." As the committee mobilized, Alina returned to her quantum readings. Somewhere in the dance of particles and probability curves, she knew she would find the key to saving both species. She had to. The alternative was extinction, not just for humanity, but for the very concept of free will in the universe. The alien vessel pulsed again, its temporal distortions growing worse. Alina squared her shoulders and got to work. First contact had come at a terrible price, but humanity would face it as they had faced every other challenge in their history, together and with unshakable determination. The game of cosmic chess had begun, and Earth's opening move would echo across time itself. The alien vessel's temporal distortions were getting worse. Dr. Alina Chen watched through CERN's quantum imaging array as reality itself seemed to tear around the ship's hull. After 3 days of non-stop work, they'd managed to establish a more stable communication channel with the beings who called themselves the Cronus. Their biology is fascinating, Dr. Sarah Martinez, the lead xenobiologist, explained to the gathered scientists. They exist partially out of phase with our timeline. It's how they achieved their mastery over time itself. Elena nodded, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the Cronus vessel's internal structure. And that's exactly what attracted the Void Hunters. They're drawn to civilizations that breach the temporal barrier. The Cronus had shared their history, a tale that sent shivers through Earth's scientific community. They had discovered how to manipulate the quantum foam of space-time itself, creating technology that could literally rewrite the past. But their achievements had drawn the attention of something ancient and hungry. The Void Hunters aren't just predators, Alina explained to the UN Security Council during their emergency session. Their universe is antibodies. They eliminate civilizations that threaten the fabric of space-time itself. But the Cronus found something in our solar system that could change everything. She brought up a complex quantum map of Earth's local space. Our region of space exists in what they call a temporal eddy. Natural quantum fluctuations create a unique stability in our space-time. The Cronus believe we might be able to use this to create a weapon against the Void Hunters. A weapon? General Hayes leaned forward. What kind of weapon? One that could end the Hunters forever. But we'll need to work fast. The Cronus ship is deteriorating, and the Void Hunters are coming. The next week passed in a blur of activity. The Cronus shared their technological insights, while Earth's scientists worked to adapt their theories to humanity's unique position in space-time. Alina found herself working closely with the Cronus chief scientist, a being who called itself Kareth. Communication was difficult. Kareth existed in multiple temporal states simultaneously, but they developed a system using quantum-entangled particles to bridge the gap. Through their exchanges, Alina began to understand the true scope of what they faced. The Void Hunters aren't just coming for us, she told the emergency session of scientists. They're coming for every possible version of Earth across all timelines. They don't just destroy civilizations, they erase them from existence itself. The room erupted in chaos, but Elena pressed on. But that's also their weakness. The Chrominus discovered that our temporal eddy creates a unique opportunity. We might be able to trap the Void Hunters in a temporal maze of our own making. Project Axiom was born from that revelation. While the world's governments prepared for war, Elena and her team worked with the Chronos to develop something unprecedented, a weapon that could fight across time itself. But the Void Hunters weren't waiting. The first attack came without warning. A dozen crystalline shapes appeared in orbit around Mars, their very presence warping the fabric of reality. The Chronos ship shuddered, its temporal distortions growing more severe. "We're out of time." Kareth communicated through the quantum link. "The Hunters have found us. They'll begin by destroying your outer planets, creating a temporal shockwave that will ripple backward through time. Your species will never have existed." Elena watched in horror as the crystalline ships began their approach. But something else caught her attention, a fluctuation in the quantum readings that shouldn't have been possible. "The temporal eddy," she whispered. "It's not natural at all. It's artificial." She turned to her team, eyes wide with realization. "We didn't just find the Chronos. They found us because we're already part of this war. We just haven't fought it yet." The implications staggered her. Humanity's unique position wasn't an accident. It was the result of actions they hadn't taken yet. Actions that would echo backward through time itself to create the very stability that had drawn the Chronos to Earth. "General Hayes," Elena called over the emergency line. "I know how to save both our species, but you're not going to like it. We need to let the Void Hunters get closer. We need to let them think they've won." As the crystalline ships advanced, Elena and Kareth raced to complete their calculations. Project Axiom wasn't just a weapon. It was a temporal bootstrap paradox made real. They would use the Void Hunters' own attack to create the very conditions that would lead to their defeat. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, and somewhere in the quantum foam between seconds, Elena knew they were about to rewrite the laws of time itself. The real war was about to begin, and its first battle had already been won, thousands of years in the past. Project Axiom transformed the Earth. Every major nation pooled their resources in a way unprecedented in human history. Particle accelerators were modified into temporal anchors. Quantum computers were linked into a global network that could process calculations across multiple timelines simultaneously. Elena watched from CERN's new temporal command center as another test fired. Streams of quantum-entangled particles shot through carefully constructed temporal fields, creating minute bubbles of altered spacetime. Each test brought them closer to their goal and drew more attention from the Void Hunters. "The crystalline ships have reached Jupiter's orbit," General Hayes reported, her hologram flickering with interference from the temporal distortions. "Our deep space sensors show they're consuming the quantum information from space itself. It's like they're erasing reality behind them." Elena nodded grimly. "That's exactly what they're doing. They're not just destroying. They're unwriting. Every planet they consume removes another thread from the fabric of spacetime." She turned to where Kareth's temporal projection hovered. "How long?" The Chrominus scientist's form shifted through multiple states before stabilizing. "By your time measurements, 3 days until they reach Earth. Our vessel cannot maintain temporal coherence much longer. The weapon must be ready." But Project Axiom wasn't just a weapon. Through their work with the Chronos, humanity had learned to see time differently. They weren't just fighting across space, but across every possible timeline. The Void Hunters existed partially outside normal spacetime, which made them nearly invulnerable, but it also made them predictable. They'd follow patterns, Elena explained to the Global Defense Council, like mathematical fractals repeated across time itself. And that's how we'll beat them. We're not building a weapon to destroy them. We're building a trap that exists in every moment simultaneously. The theory was audacious. By using Earth's unique temporal stability and the Chronos technology, they would create a cascade of temporal loops. Each loop would draw the Void Hunters in, using their own nature against them. But the cost would be enormous. The initial activation will create a temporal shockwave. Alina warned, every person on Earth will experience time differently. Some moments will last eternities. Others will pass in the blink of an eye. We'll be rewriting our own history even as we live it. The first attack came sooner than expected. A single crystalline ship broke formation and accelerated toward Earth, the planet's newest defense systems. A network of temporal shields reverse-engineered from Cronus technology flared to life. The battle that followed defied conventional description. The Void Hunter ship existed in multiple times simultaneously, striking at Earth's defenses across centuries in a single moment. Military satellites were destroyed before they were launched. Temporal shields failed because they would fail, their future destruction rippling backward through time. But humanity had prepared for this. As the Hunter attacked, Alina initiated the first phase of Project Axiom. Quantum accelerators around the globe activated in perfect synchronization, creating a web of temporal energy that caught the Hunter in a maze of causality. "It's working," she shouted as the crystalline ship found itself trapped in a loop of its own making. Each attempt to attack created new temporal branches that fed back into the trap. All stations, prepare for full activation. The Cronus ship, despite its deteriorating condition, moved to support Earth's defense. Its advanced technology helped stabilize the temporal fields even as more hunters broke formation and approached. But victory came at a price. The temporal distortions were taking their toll. Around the globe, people reported strange phenomena. Children aged decades in moments before reverting to normal. Ancient buildings appeared overnight, then vanished again. Memories of events that hadn't happened yet became common. "The temporal mesh is holding," Kareth reported, its form increasingly unstable. "But our ship cannot maintain cohesion much longer. The final phase must begin now." Alina looked at the tactical display, showing the main body of Void Hunters approaching Earth. Everything they had worked for came down to this moment, a moment that would exist across all of time simultaneously. "General Hayes," she said, her voice steady despite the temporal distortions causing reality to shimmer around her. "Begin the final countdown. It's time to show these cosmic horrors why you don't mess with humanity." As the countdown began, Alina thought about the paradox they were about to create. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the right to exist across all of time. And somewhere in the quantum foam between moments, the universe held its breath. The greatest gambit in human history was about to begin, and its effects would echo through every second of time itself. Time fractured around Earth as Project Axiom reached full power. The quantum mesh that humanity and the Cronus had created together lit up the solar system like a web of crystalline fire. Through her temporal viewers, Alina watched as reality itself began to fold according to their calculations. Multiple temporal incursions detected, the AI monitoring system announced. Void Hunter fleet approaching through 7 different time streams simultaneously. The main fleet of hunters had arrived, vast crystalline shapes that hurt the mind to look upon directly. They moved through space like sharks through water, their very presence eating away at the fabric of reality. Behind them, space itself seemed to unravel, leaving nothing but void in their wake. Status of the temporal anchors. General Hayes demanded from her command post. "Holding at 93%, Alina reported, watching the quantum readouts. "The paradox engine is stable." She turned to where Kareth's increasingly unstable form flickered. "Your ship." "We maintain coherence." Barely, the Cronus scientist's thoughts came in broken fragments through the quantum link. "The weapon must activate now." Alina nodded grimly. They had one chance to make this work. Project Axiom wasn't just a weapon. It was a temporal virus designed to infect the very nature of time itself. If it worked, it would create a cascading series of paradoxes that would trap the Void Hunters in an endless loop of their own undoing. The first wave of hunters struck Earth's defenses. Reality buckled as they attacked across multiple timelines simultaneously. Around the globe, people experienced moments that hadn't happened yet and remembered futures that would never come to pass. Primary temporal shields failing, the AI announced. Secondary shields engaging. Temporal displacement detected in sectors 7 through 12. Elena watched in horror as parts of Earth's surface began to shift through different times. Cities appeared and disappeared as various timelines overlapped. The quantum mesh was holding, but barely. All stations, she called over the global command network. Prepare for primary activation. Security Council, we need authorization now. The Void Hunters pressed their attack, their crystalline forms shattering and reforming as they tried to break through Earth's temporal defenses. Each attack created new timelines, new possibilities, exactly as Elena had predicted. Authorization granted. Came the response from the Security Council. God help us all. Elena took a deep breath and initiated the final sequence. Around the globe, quantum accelerators powered up to levels never before attempted. The Cronus ship, despite its deteriorating condition, moved into position. Kareth, Elena called through the quantum link. Your people's sacrifice will not be forgotten. The Cronus scientists' form stabilized one last time. In all possible futures, humanity proves worthy of survival. It has been an honor. The Cronus vessel began to pulse with energy, its temporal distortions reaching critical levels. As the Void Hunters closed in for the kill, Elena activated Project Actium's core sequence. Reality itself seemed to scream. The quantum mesh ignited, creating a cascade of temporal energy that engulfed the solar system. The Void Hunters, caught in the web of causality, found themselves trapped in an endless series of paradoxes. But something went wrong. The temporal energies were too powerful, too chaotic. The Cronus ship began to break apart, its destruction creating ripples through time that threatened to tear apart the very trap they had created. The paradox engine is overloading. Elena shouted over the chaos. We're losing containment. In that moment, she understood what had to be done. The calculations had been correct. They needed a temporal anchor point, something to stabilize the paradox. The Cronus had known this from the beginning. Their sacrifice wasn't just noble, it was mathematically necessary. General Hayes, Elena said, her voice steady despite the reality warping around her. I need direct access to the quantum core. And I need it now. Dr. Chen, what are you planning? Someone has to guide the temporal energies. Someone has to ensure the trap closes properly. She looked at the tactical display showing the Void Hunters writhing in the quantum mesh. Someone has to become the paradox. Before anyone could stop her, Elena initiated the quantum transfer. Her consciousness merged with the temporal fields, her very existence spreading across multiple timelines simultaneously. She became aware of every moment in Earth's history, every possible future, every path not taken. And in that infinite moment, she understood. The temporal eddy that had drawn the Cronus to Earth hadn't been natural. It had been created by this very moment, her consciousness scattered across time itself, becoming the anchor point that would trap the Void Hunters forever. The last thing she heard was General Hayes ordering emergency protocols. The last thing she saw was the Void Hunters being drawn into an eternal loop of their own destruction. The last thing she felt was the satisfaction of knowing that humanity would survive. Then she became something else entirely. A guardian existing in all moments simultaneously, ensuring that the trap would hold for eternity. The Void Hunters had sought to unwrite humanity from existence. Instead, they found themselves written out of time itself, trapped in an endless dance of creation and destruction, watching but never able to touch the reality they had sought to destroy. And somewhere in the quantum foam between seconds, Elena Chen smiled. 1 year after Project Actium's activation, Earth had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The temporal ripples had settled, but their effects lingered in the fabric of reality itself. Humanity had emerged transformed, not just technologically, but philosophically. General Hayes stood at the newly constructed temporal memorial in Geneva, watching the quantum display that showed the eternal dance of trapped Void Hunters. The crystalline beings were still visible at the edges of the solar system, forever caught in the moment of their defeat, their forms a reminder of how close humanity had come to extinction. The temporal readings are stable, Dr. Martins reported, checking her quantum tablet. The paradox continues to hold. She paused, looking at the shimmering barrier that marked the edge of normal space-time. Do you think she knew about what would happen? The general nodded slowly. Alina knew exactly what she was doing. The Cronus had shown her the calculations. Someone had to become the anchor point, a consciousness spread across time itself to maintain the trap. The remains of the Cronus vessel had been preserved in high orbit, a testament to their sacrifice. Their technology, combined with humanity's innovation, had given birth to a new age of human development. Cities now existed partially out of phase with normal time, allowing for expansion into spaces that technically didn't exist. Quantum computing had evolved into temporal computing, allowing problems to be solved across multiple timelines simultaneously. But perhaps the most profound change was in how humanity viewed itself. The knowledge that they had faced cosmic horror and emerged victorious had united the planet in ways previously thought impossible. The old divisions of nation and ideology had given way to a new understanding of humanity's place in the universe. "We're detecting another anomaly," Martine said suddenly, checking her instruments. "It's different from the others." The quantum display flickered, and for a moment they saw her, Alina Chen, or what she had become. Her form was impossible to look at directly, existing as she did across all moments in time simultaneously. But her presence was unmistakable. The barrier holds. Her voice came through the quantum field, echoing with the weight of infinite moments. "But there's something else you need to know. The Void Hunters weren't the only ones of their kind. There are other forces out there, other entities that see humanity's potential as a threat." General Hayes straightened. "Are we in danger?" A sound like temporal wind whispered through the memorial. "Not danger. Opportunity." The Chronos weren't the only civilization out there looking for allies. Others have seen what humanity achieved. They're coming, not to destroy, but to learn, to join. The quantum display shifted, showing glimpses of other civilizations, other worlds. Some were like the Chronos, partially out of phase with normal space. Others were even stranger, beings of pure energy, civilizations that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Earth has become a beacon," Alina's voice continued. "The trap we created, the paradox we maintain, it's shown the galaxy that there's another way. That evolution doesn't have to mean destruction. That time itself can be preserved rather than consumed." Martinez's instruments began registering new quantum signatures, contact attempts from civilizations that had been watching, waiting to see if humanity would survive their trial by fire. "But what about you?" Hayes asked the shimmering presence that had once been Earth's leading quantum physicist. "Are you still human?" The quantum field rippled with what might have been laughter. "I am what I need to be, a guardian at the edge of time. A memory stretched across infinity, a promise that humanity made to the universe itself." Her presence began to fade, spreading back across the countless moments she now inhabited. "The war isn't over, it never really is, but humanity is ready for what comes next. You proved that when you chose to help the Chronos, knowing the price it might require, when you faced the void and refused to blink." The quantum display stabilized, showing new temporal signatures approaching Earth, diplomatic vessels from a dozen different civilizations, each hoping to learn from the species that had done the impossible. "The future is coming," Alina's voice whispered from every moment simultaneously. "And thanks to what we achieved here, humanity will have all the time in the universe to face it." General Hayes looked up at the stars, visible through the temporal distortions that now surrounded Earth. Somewhere out there, Alina Chen existed in all moments at once, maintaining the trap that had saved not just humanity, but time itself. And beyond the barrier she maintained, the universe waited with infinite possibilities. The game of cosmic chess had ended in stalemate, but in doing so, humanity had changed the rules of reality itself. Tomorrow beckoned, full of promise and mystery. And this time, humanity would face it united, tempered by their brush with extinction, ready to take their place among the stars. In the quantum foam between seconds, a consciousness that had once been human continued her eternal watch, smiling across all moments simultaneously. The void had tried to devour time itself. Instead, it had given birth to something new, a humanity that would never again fear the dark between the stars. The future was coming, and thanks to sacrifices made and promises kept, humanity would face it together, one impossible moment at a time.